I thought trust was unbreakable, that when you build a life with someone, it means something. But one night changed everything. Emily went out with friends like she always did. No big deal, right? But when she walked through the door at 2 a.m., something was off. Her messy hair, the smudged makeup, and the one thing that was missing. In that moment, my world cracked. And once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. So tell me, what would you have done in my place? Marriage, for me, had always been an anchor. Emily and I built something strong. At least, that's what I believed. We had our fair share of ups and downs, like any couple, but we always found our way back to each other. I trusted her completely. She was the social one, the life of the party, while I preferred quiet nights at home. It worked for us, or so I thought. Looking back, maybe I was too comfortable, too certain that we were untouchable. That kind of certainty can be dangerous. Friday. Nights were routine, beer, a little cleaning, and catching up on sports highlights. Emily had mentioned a bachelorette party earlier that week, laughing as she warned me not to wait up. I smiled, barely looking away from the TV. It wasn't unusual. She had nights out with friends all the time. I never questioned it. Trust, after all, was the foundation of everything. But trust is a fragile thing. It holds firm until the moment it shatters. And sometimes, the cracks are invisible until it's too late. The hours passed, and my routine played out like any other night. By midnight, I was still awake, phone in hand, waiting for the usual check-in text. Nothing. Strange, but not alarming. At 1:30 a.m., I checked again. Still nothing. My stomach tightened, but I told myself not to overthink it. She was having fun, that's all. She'd text soon. Right? But when 2 a.m. rolled around and the front door finally creaked open, something shifted. A feeling I couldn't name. The kind that settles in your gut before your brain catches up. She walked in, and everything felt off. Her hair was a mess, her lipstick smeared, heels dangling from one hand. I should have laughed, teased her for partying too hard. But I didn't. Because then I saw it, the thing that made my breath catch in my throat. Something was missing. Something important. And just like that, the illusion cracked. I should have gone to bed. I should have ignored that uneasy feeling creeping up my spine. But something kept me up. Call it instinct, paranoia, or just a gut feeling I couldn't shake. Emily always sent a quick text, even on her wildest nights out. Having fun. Love. You. Simple, predictable. But tonight? Silence. The longer I stared at my phone, the heavier the air felt. Maybe her battery died. Maybe she lost track of time. Logical explanations. Still, logic has a funny way of feeling useless when doubt starts whispering in your ear. At 1:30 a.m., my patience turned into concern. I debated texting her, but I didn't. Want to be that husband, the one who checks in like a jealous fool. So I waited and waited. The sound of the front door unlocking at 2 a.m. hit me like a jolt. I turned my head toward the entryway, expecting to see Emily in her usual tipsy, giggling state. But what I saw instead? That was something else entirely. She stumbled in, purse barely hanging on her shoulder, heels swinging from her fingers. Her makeup was smudged, hair tousled in a way that wasn't from the wind. She muttered something, too slurred to understand, before flopping onto the couch. I studied her, heart pounding. Something about her dress looked wrong, twisted, wrinkled. And then my eyes landed on the detail that sent my thoughts spiraling. A single, glaring, undeniable absence. I swallowed hard. My throat felt tight. Emily. My voice came out steadier than I felt. She blinked at me, dazed, unfocused. I forced a breath, my hands curling into fists. Where are your... The words caught. I didn't want to finish the question, but I had to, because I already knew the answer. and I wasn't ready for what came next. Emily barely registered my presence. She sprawled across the couch, eyes half-lidded, a lazy smile tugging at her lips, like she had no care in the world. The smell of wine clung to her, mixing with traces of perfume that didn't quite feel like hers. I stood there, waiting for her to notice the tension in the air, for her to sense that something was off. But she just mumbled something incoherent, stretching like she was shaking off a long dream. I took a slow step forward, my heart pounding in my chest. "Emily," I tried again, my voice sharper this time. She groaned in response, waving a hand, dismissively. "Relax," she slurred, letting out a soft, tipsy giggle. "Just a little too much fun, that's all." But I wasn't laughing, because I wasn't looking at her smile. I was looking at her dress, crooked, wrinkled, hanging, just a little too loosely on one shoulder. And then, of course, there was the elephant in the room. Or rather, the missing piece of fabric that should have been there. A tightness formed in my chest, my thoughts racing faster than I could control. "Where are your—" I stopped myself, forcing a breath. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe I was jumping to conclusions. But deep down, I knew. People don't just lose something like that. Not accidentally. Not without a reason. Emily finally opened her eyes fully, blinking at me as if my question had taken forever to register. And then, just like that, she laughed. A soft, almost nervous sound. "Oh," she murmured, shrugging. "Must have lost them at the club." The room felt colder. My fingers twitched at my sides. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to be the husband who laughed it off, who chalked it up to too many drinks and a wild night. But something about the way she said it, the way she refused to meet my eyes, it made my stomach twist. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay level. "How do you just lose something like that?" She rolled her eyes, turning away. "God, stop being dramatic." And with that, she pushed herself off the couch and wobbled toward the bedroom, leaving me standing there, alone, confused, and suddenly drowning in a feeling I didn't want to name. I barely slept that night. I stayed on the couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying every second of our conversation. The way she brushed me off, the way she laughed, like it was nothing, but it wasn't nothing. My mind clung to the missing detail, one so obvious, so glaring, it was impossible to ignore. People don't just lose something like that, not unless something else happened. I told myself to let it go, to stop overthinking. But once suspicion plants itself in your mind, it grows like a weed, wrapping around every rational thought until all that's left is doubt. The next morning, Emily barely acknowledged me. She moved around the kitchen like it was any other Saturday, scrolling through her phone, sipping her coffee, completely unfazed. I watched her, searching for cracks, for any sign that she felt even an ounce of guilt. But there was nothing. Just casual indifference. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. If anything, it made it worse. Because if there was nothing to hide, why was she acting like nothing happened? And why, every time I met her eyes, did she look away just a little too quickly? I tried again. "Emily," I said, keeping my tone calm. "Can we talk about last night?" She groaned, rubbing her temples. Oh my God. Are we still on this? Her voice was laced with irritation, like I was the one being unreasonable. "I told you, I had too much to drink. That's it." She didn't even look up. My stomach twisted. It wasn't just her words. It was the way she said them. Dismissive. Cold. Like she knew I wouldn't push further. Like she was counting on it. I should have let it go. I should have trusted her. But something deep in my gut told me not to. Something wasn't right. And if she wasn't going to give me answers, I had only one option left. I'd have to find them myself. It started as a gut feeling. A nagging, relentless itch in the back of my mind that wouldn't let me move on. I wasn't the type to snoop. I never had a reason to be. But trust isn't just about words, it's about actions. And Emily's actions weren't adding up. She was glued to her phone all morning, barely looking at me, scrolling with the kind of focus that made my stomach tighten. I told myself I was being paranoid. But when she left her phone unattended on the kitchen counter for the first time, in years I hesitated for only a second before picking it up. My heart pounded as I unlocked it. I knew her passcode, my birthday. The irony stung. My fingers felt stiff as I scrolled through her messages looking for, I didn't even know what. Most of it was harmless, group chats, work conversations, the usual. But then I saw it, a name I didn't recognize, Jake. My pulse quickened. Something about the way his name sat there, buried in her messages, made my hands sweat. I clicked it, and what I found, it made my blood run cold. The messages started off light, jokes, casual banter, but as I scrolled further, the tone shifted. Flirty comments, inside jokes I wasn't a part of, and then the ones from last night. Last night was amazing. Still thinking about you. My grip tightened on the phone. My breath felt shallow. You left something behind. Might have to come back for it. I swallowed hard. There was no room for doubt. I knew exactly what she had left behind. My head spun. My body felt disconnected, like I was floating outside myself, watching my world crack open in real time. I wanted to slam the phone down, to wake her up and demand the truth. But something stopped me. Confronting her now wouldn't change anything. No, I needed to be smart. If she thought I was still clueless, I could get the full truth. And I wasn't leaving without it. I didn't react, not yet. Slamming her phone down and confronting her would have been satisfying, but it wouldn't get me what I needed. I wanted the truth, not whatever half-baked excuse she'd scramble to come up with. So I played my part. When Emily finally looked up from her coffee, I forced a smile. Forced normalcy. If she noticed how stiff I was, she didn't say a word. That told me everything. She wasn't worried. She thought she had gotten away with it, but I had already made my decision. I wasn't staying. Not after this. The only question was how I'd leave. I couldn't just storm out. Emily would twist the narrative, make herself the victim. No, I needed to disappear on my terms, quietly, permanently. That night, while she slept peacefully, I got to work. I started transferring money from our joint account into one she didn't know about. Nothing drastic, just enough that she wouldn't notice right away. I packed small things first, the ones she wouldn't see missing. My passport, important documents, anything that mattered. I wasn't just leaving, I was erasing myself from her world. Each day, I moved with quiet precision. I searched for a new place, something small, something distant, a clean slate. I took time off work under the excuse of needing a mental break, making sure everything was set up before I made my move. The more I planned, the lighter I felt. The anger, the betrayal, the sleepless nights, it all faded into a singular focus. Freedom. Emily was still oblivious, lost in whatever world she had built for herself. She didn't even notice how much quieter I had become. And then, the final step. The letter. It had to be short, direct. Just enough to let her know that I knew. That I was gone for good. That she had done this. I placed it in the kitchen, under the coffee mug she used every morning. One last moment of irony before I walked out of the life we built. She wouldn't see it coming. But by the time she did, I'd already be gone. The night before I left, I lay awake, listening to Emily's steady breathing beside me. She had no idea. No clue that in just a few hours, I'd be gone. I studied the ceiling, counting the minutes, until my escape. It wasn't just about leaving, it was about making sure she felt it. Not instantly, not with a fight, but in that slow, creeping way that betrayal unravels a person. I wanted her to wake up to an empty space beside her, to reach for me and find nothing, to feel, even for a second, the hollow absence of something she took for granted. At 4 a.m., I slipped out of bed. Every movement was calculated, silent. My bags were already packed in the car, my exit strategy planned to the last detail. The letter sat exactly where I left it, weighted under her coffee mug, a final reminder of the life she had thrown away. I didn't look back, didn't hesitate. The door clicked shut behind me, and just like that, I was free. The morning air hit my face, cold and sharp, but for the first time in days, my chest felt lighter. It was over. Emily didn't call right away. I expected that. It wasn't until later that afternoon that my phone started buzzing. Missed calls, frantic messages. Where are you? What's going on? This isn't funny. I ignored them. I imagined her finding the letter, reading my words over and over, trying to process what she never thought would happen. And then, the inevitable shift. From confusion to realization. To panic. I could almost picture it, the way her world cracked the same way mine had just days ago. By nightfall, the messages turned desperate. Please, just talk to me. Let's fix this. But there was nothing left to fix. I let the silence speak for me. She had made her choices. Now, she had to live with them. At first, Emily tried to keep up appearances. She acted as if I had just gone on some impulsive trip, telling friends I was figuring things out. But the cracks started to show. Our friends weren't stupid. They had seen us together for years, knew how steady I was. Vanishing overnight wasn't something I'd do without a reason. And Emily. She wasn't exactly the best at hiding guilt. The whispers started, curious at first, then sharper. What really happened? She dodged the questions, but people notice when someone avoids the truth. And soon, the truth had a way of finding its way to them. Then came the financial reality. She had always relied on me for that. I handled the bills, the planning, the safety net. And now, that net was gone. When she finally checked our joint account, she must have felt the ground drop beneath her. There was just enough left for her to manage, but not enough to keep her comfortable. I imagined the moment it hit her, the realization that I had been preparing for this long before she even noticed. She had spent months playing her game. I had spent days making sure she'd lose. Work became another battle. Before, she was always confident, composed. But stress has a way of showing up where you least expect it. Missed deadlines, distracted, meetings. People started noticing. And when the rumors followed her into the office, it got worse. Someone finally confronted her, probably one of those co-workers who pretended to be a friend. Is it true? Did you cheat? I wondered how she answered. Did she deny it? Did she try to twist the story? Or did she finally feel the weight of what she had done? The texts slowed after that. The calls stopped. Maybe she realized there was nothing left to say. Or maybe, for the first time, she had to sit in the mess she created, alone. Months passed. Enough time for me to rebuild, to feel like myself again. I wasn't looking for closure. I had already found it. But life has a funny way of throwing things at you when you least expect them. One crisp autumn afternoon, I walked into a coffee shop, just looking for a quiet place to think. And then I saw her, sitting by the window, hands wrapped around a steaming mug, staring at nothing. Emily, thinner, tired, different. For a second, I considered turning around. But something in me said, no. Let's see how this plays out. I pulled up a chair across from her, and that's when she noticed me. Her eyes widened, breath hitching as if she had just seen a ghost. David, she whispered, voice barely audible. I said nothing at first, just studied her. She looked like someone carrying a weight too heavy to bear. And maybe, just maybe, That was the first honest thing I had seen in her in a long time. Finally, she swallowed hard and spoke. "I'm sorry." Simple, quiet, but not enough. Not even close. I leaned back, crossing my arms. For what? My voice was calm, even. She flinched slightly, then let out a shaky breath. "For everything," she admitted. "For taking you for granted. For thinking I could get away with it. For losing you." Her fingers gripped the mug like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. I could tell she had rehearsed this moment 100 times in her head. But the truth? I wasn't sure it mattered anymore. She searched my face, waiting for something. Maybe forgiveness, maybe anything at all. But I just nodded, letting the silence stretch between us. Did I need to say something? Did I even care? Whatever she was looking for, I wasn't sure I had it to give. Emily kept looking at me, waiting. Maybe for anger, maybe for kindness. I wasn't sure which one she deserved. The old me, the one who trusted her, who believed in us. He might have leaned in, asked her how she was doing, told her it would be okay. But that version of me didn't exist anymore. "I never wanted to hurt you," she murmured, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. I never thought you'd actually leave." Her voice cracked slightly, and for the first time I saw it. The regret, the realization, the truth catching up to her inch by inch. I could have told her that I forgave her, that I understood. But the truth? I didn't. Not entirely. And maybe that was okay. Some things don't need a perfect ending. They just need to end. "I've moved on, Emily," I said, not cruelly, but with finality. And I meant it. I wasn't saying it to hurt her. I was saying it because, for the first time since that night, I felt it. The weight was gone. The anger, the betrayal, the endless what-ifs. It wasn't mine to carry anymore. She gave me a sad smile, the kind that comes too late. "I know," she whispered. "I just needed to see you one last time." Maybe she did. Maybe she just wanted to prove to herself that I was still the same person she lost. But I wasn't. I had built something new. A life that didn't include her. I stood up, leaving a few bills on the table. "Take care of yourself, Emily." Simple, honest, enough. I didn't look back as I walked away. Some chapters aren't meant to be reopened, and this one, it was finally closed.
Keep watching our stories by clicking on one of the videos that appear on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be alerted about new videos. See you next time.